Today we're in John chapter 11. We're going to start right off with this famous story of the raising of Lazarus. It says in verse 1, a man named Lazarus was sick. He lived in Bethany with his sisters, Mary and Martha. Now, you're going to learn more about Mary and Martha later on in our Bible reading plan. But it says in verse 4, when Jesus heard about the sickness, he said, hey, this sickness won't end in death. Now, pay attention to that. No, it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of God will receive glory from this. Now, spoiler alert, Jesus isn't actually going to get there in time to heal him before he dies. So at face value, it looks like maybe he wasn't telling the truth here. But really what he was meaning to say here is that he's going to raise him from the dead. Lazarus is going to die, but then he's going to raise him from the dead, and I'll let you read that for yourself. It's a pretty cool story. And he's doing it so that he can show really who he is. He's trying to point to the fact that he is more than just some miracle worker, that he is, the Messiah. He is God himself. In fact, in verse 25, he says, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Now, he's not just talking about what he's about to do to Lazarus, raising him from the dead. He's actually talking about a spiritual truth that is available to all of us. Anyone who believes in Jesus Christ, we will live eternally even after dying. It's this eternal life thing that Jesus is talking about here. And the miracle of Lazarus is just, sort of a metaphor for the greater spiritual truth. So anyway, I'll let you read that story. It's a great story. It's pretty straightforward. It's really a powerful story of Jesus healing Lazarus and raising him from the dead. But what happens after that is interesting, and I've highlighted some of this down here in verse 48. After that happened, all of the Pharisees and the religious leaders start plotting even more fervently to kill Jesus. And here's what it says in verse 48. They said this, if we allow Jesus to go on like this, soon everyone will believe in him, and then the Roman army will come and destroy both our temple and our nation. And you can see they're a little paranoid there. And so then it says in verse 49, Caiaphas, who was high priest at the time, said, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't realize that it's better for you that one man should die for the people than for the whole nation to be destroyed. Now, there's some commentary on that statement right here in verse 51. It says, he didn't say this on his own. As high priest at that time, he was led to prophesy that Jesus would die for the entire nation, and not only for that nation, but to bring together and unite all the children of God scattered around the world. And so that little passage right there, verses 51 and 52, that is pointing toward something that's going to be developed more and more, not just in the book of John, but as we dig into some of the letters later on in the New Testament, where it talks about the fact that Jesus didn't just come for the Jewish people, but he came for even the Gentiles, all the children of God. Anyone who would receive the message of Jesus would be saved by what Jesus was going to do. When Jesus went to the cross, he would die for the entire nation, not just the Jews, but the entire church, everyone who is a follower of Jesus. Now, we'll dig more into that mystery of the gospel, the bringing together of Jews and Gentiles later on, much later on in this Bible reading plan. But for now, just notice in verse 53 that it says, so from that time on, the Jewish leaders began to plot Jesus' death. And so we're going to see that unfold in the book of John. Even as we read it, and eventually it's going to end up in his crucifixion and then his resurrection. Again, spoiler alert, by the end of this book. But that's enough for right now, so you're ready to read John chapter 11, and we'll see you tomorrow for chapter 12.